Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the LiveFitNow podcast. Thank you for joining me today. I can't wait for you to hear today's conversation. It is with Sabrina Stocker. She was on The Apprentice a couple of years ago. She is an entrepreneur and we talk business, motivation, what it's been like starting a brand new business during lockdown, and all things health and fitness too. I'm sure we're all going to take something away from it. There's some great conversation about motivation, mindsets, how we can organise and plan ourselves to take action. So I'm going to leave you with our conversation. Welcome to the LiveFitNow podcast, Sabrina Stocker. How are you today?
I'm so well, thank you. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. So I want to get straight down to business. You have just started a business during lockdown, shoppingslot.co.uk. So what made you start it and how's it going?
Oh, it's been an absolute roller coaster. I never thought I'd be starting a new business during a time of staying at home, should we say. So somebody that I didn't know in a sense, but had spoken to before, came with this idea of shopping slot, and it allowed you to be able to find a delivery slot in your area. So rather than going to all the different websites, you just have to go to one website. And I get a lot of people asking me all the time to start a business with them or to go 50-50. So I ignored it when I first got the request to join the team with Jason. And then it was about a week later and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running out of food and I don't want to go to the supermarket because I was self-isolating. What do I do? And then I remembered that Jason had messaged me about shopping slot, and they spent about half an hour going through messages and DMs trying to find out who this person was. And I finally found him, and we spoke on the phone, and within an hour we started a company together. So it's a pretty random way to start a company, but exciting.
That's quite a whirlwind, isn't it? And it really has. I mean, how many weeks are you in now? Is it like five weeks in?
So we're just over 6 weeks in.
Wow.
So I joined the company on the 7th of April. So at the moment it was just Jason, and he's great at tech, but he didn't really have that kind of business mind about it as well. And when you're trying to scale something, you really need that. So within a week of joining, we brought it from 2,000 to 3,000 users to over 100,000 users, and it just absolutely exploded. And fast forward that 6 weeks, we've just hit the 3 million page views and 500,000 users. So it's been quite a quick journey.
That is super exciting, and obviously it's bang on something that's been so needed at the moment because everyone's so in need of shopping slots. And what is your vision for the future? Because obviously, hopefully, in a few weeks' time, we will be able to go out more and have the freedom to go to the shops ourselves. But people are still going to want shopping slots. Have you got like a plan and evolution to keep people using you?
I think that will come with time. At the moment, it's a very COVID-led business, and best situation is that you don't need us because the supermarkets will sort themselves out and they'll be able to provide everyone with shopping slots if available. But I definitely think it's good to have, especially if this does come about, if we have a second wave. But in terms of how actually we're going to monetize it and use the platform after, that bit we're still figuring out.
Of course. I mean, it's such a short time period that you've got to this stage. I mean, it's incredible. And actually, maybe just for the audience, could you give us a little bit of a background as to why you were approached to join this business? What's your experience?
Of course. So for anyone who doesn't know me, my name's Sabrina Stocker. I started my first business when I was 14, always been very entrepreneurial, did the dreaded but loved Apprentice series a couple of years back and got through to the semis there. And my background is I run a tennis events company, and I also do mentorship. So Jason had seen that I do already work with startup businesses looking to scale, and he was the perfect kind of candidate in that sense to approach me.
You brought up my tennis events. So that is the business you looked for investment, isn't it, on The Apprentice? How big a role does tennis and fitness play in your life? I mean, obviously it's tricky at the moment, but take COVID out of it. What does your life look like?
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up as a tennis player. Sports has always been a massive part of my life. Many people don't know this, but I'm also a PT, but I keep that bit quiet.
Oh, nice.
And
You practice?
Well, actually, I got injured. So I've been out of weights for about a year, and I just started getting back into the gym. My back had healed up. I was getting back to body pump, and then we went into lockdown. So I've been doing a little bit of fitness, slowly getting back into it. I think it's such an important part of your life. Every single day, the first thing I do is I get out the house and I exercise, especially playing tennis. It gives you an area that you can just focus on and zone out. And I think it's really easy now that everyone's striving to be the best version of themselves, that they forget to do stuff for fun. So for me, tennis is a way to exercise my body and make sure that I'm keeping physically fit, but actually it's a way for me to switch off and mentally stay stable too.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing to bring up, actually. I think so often people will think of exercise almost as punishment, but actually if you can find some sort of joy in something that you do, it's the thing you keep turning to, isn't it? You'll keep going back to it because you actually just enjoy it. Sometimes you can forget it's even exercise because you get so much from it.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. Like, we would do sports at PE. We don't go to the gym in PE when we're growing up. So we're learned into this cultural society where you're able to socialize with others. You don't realize that you're exercising, that you have your own independent goals within sports. And I think, yes, if you can get into the gym, that's great. But if you still want to have that healthy lifestyle, then sport and finding something that you love there is such a good alternative.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting time. I think a lot of people have been forced into trying different things and trying different ways of exercise. And obviously not for all. I think some people are dreadfully missing the gym, but for some, I think they found a new way of moving and a new way of exercising and getting out in nature more as well. So it's sometimes you almost need to be forced into an opportunity of trying something new to see what you like.
100%. Like, I'm definitely missing the gym. There's no denying that I'm missing the gym. But I just thought, I have to think of what else I could do. So I've been going to the local woods every day, or my brother trains a lot. He's super, super fit, and we just do HIIT workouts in the back garden. So, there is alternatives, and you just have to try and be as creative as you can.
Absolutely. And are you a fit and healthy family? Have you been brought up that way, or did you go down your own path?
Yeah, no, I have. Well, my dad, we have this debate in our household. So my dad is an ex-professional snooker player, and I argue that snooker isn't kind of a sport, and he argues that it is. But my brother's a tennis player, so, he's super, super fit.
Awesome, that's nice. I think it's so much easier when you grow up around it, isn't it? It's interesting how people find their journeys into their sport. And how are you preparing to come out of COVID for My Tennis events? Are you phasing things in that can allow you to get going again, or is it very much a time will tell?
It's a very much time will tell, I think, because we are ultimately a third party supplier to many of the clubs. So they're going to want their members to be happy before they say yes to us. However, because the company's built so lean, it means that no matter how long we're out of it, we can go straight back into it very quickly. So in that sense, because we are that lean and we have very minimal overheads, we'll be able to start up very quickly. It's just when that happens, I do not know.
That's exciting. And is My Tennis events the opportunity, is it focused at kids, or is it a chance for anyone who wants to maybe try tennis or get back into tennis to go and sign up?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably 50% kids and then 50% the other. But we are starting some really other exciting things. Match Made in Tennis is my new creation, which I'm very excited to launch as a product. And that's speed dating, but playing tennis, which I think would be super fun because it means you get to meet other sporty people who are single, and who wouldn't want to do that? And if you don't like them, you just play tennis and you move on.
If nothing else, you might make a new friend.
Exactly.
Oh, that sounds great. I love it. And how have you stayed positive and motivated through lockdown? Because you've obviously, your whole life is turned upside down by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's been an absolute whirlwind. I just think to myself every day, I have the choice of what I'm going to do with my day, and I can either choose to let whatever's happening around me affect me, or whatever is happening around me, I can just say, okay, that's the way that it is. How am I going to adapt and use the skills and resources and resilience that I've built up over the previous years in order to make the best out of a bad situation? So I think it's been a mix of staying positive, but also staying very realistic. And the fact that I know that it's not the best situation, but I'm being able to adapt is what's getting me through.
Are you a person that needs to be busy?
Yes. You know what, I just love what I do, and I never thought, in a sense, if I were to go back a few months ago, I was bored in the sense my company was running amazingly and I was working like 15 minutes a day, which was great, but I had all of this free time, and a lot of my friends are mums and they've got kids, so their lifestyle is going to the gym, having a coffee, having a catch up, looking after the kids. And I was kind of turning into that myself, and I thought, you know what, like now I'm getting up in the morning at 6 a.m, 5 a.m, just naturally excited to start the day. So I think you've got to find that thing which is going to motivate you and push you.
Do you think that's always been business for you?
I think it has been business. I enjoy the journey, I enjoy the hustle, and I enjoy problem solving. And sometimes I don't feel bad being in lockdown, not being able to see my friends, only because I'm really enjoying what I do. And sometimes I spend more time on the phone to my business partners than I might do my own friends. And I think that's just a personal preference of me not seeing it as a business, but me seeing it as a long-term passion project.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand that completely. And so what is your vision for the future? Are you someone that wants to work on one or two businesses and then sell them on? Or do you want to have lots of businesses under your umbrella?
I think I'd like to have lots of businesses. I've just launched a really exciting platform, which you can find at sabrinastocker.com/mentorship. And I launched it maybe 4 days ago, and I've already had 100 startups apply to join the community. And I think it will be such a nice thing to be able to empower others. When I was younger, I used to listen to the likes of Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, every single day since I was like 14 years old. And I was like, where are the females? Where are the young, females representing this motivational space? And they just are very minimal. And if they are, they're kind of in their, mid 40s, mid 50s, been there and done it. But there's very, very few millennials doing that. So I thought I want to own that space.
I'm going to go for it. Why not? If you don't try, you don't know, do you? And
Exactly.
I think this is an apt time to bring the Apprentice up.
Of course.
What made you sign up to and apply to do that show?
So I've always been such a big fan of the show. I've watched literally every single episode since I was little. I was that child who would have a go at my mum or dad for talking when the Apprentice was on. And I actually applied for the show 3 years ago, and I got taken through to the first rounds, but it clashed with my MBA course, so I rejected the offer. And I went to apply for the second time and missed the deadline date. I was like, okay, I didn't attend for the first interview. I forgot about the second interview. Let me get it right this time. So I literally planned it in advance. And why I applied was purely I wanted the challenge to see if I could do it.
What was the experience like?
It was amazing. It was so much fun. And it really taught me that business is all about being able to problem solve and adapt. Probably was the biggest lesson I learned from it too. Did
you make a lot of friends? Because they like the entertainment side of it, and they always show like people really clashing and not getting on, and the competition because you all want to win. Is it as bad as they portray it, or actually you're all good friends behind the scenes?
We're really good friends, actually. We have a WhatsApp group. We had a Zoom call a couple of weeks ago. And I think our year in particular was very good at compartmentalizing, because yes, when you're on the task, it's very high stress. You're likely to have those, conflicts. But actually back at the house, everyone did switch off. And our year was also very intelligent. Like, no matter how they portrayed all of us on the show, everyone was successful in their own right. So we had a lot of mutual respect to each other, which was great.
Are you glad you went on it?
Oh, I'm so glad. I'd go again, 100%. Maybe I would choose a different business plan.
That's what I was about to say. did not winning the investment have an impact on your business?
It was the best thing for me, to be honest, because like I've just started up 2 more businesses, Shopping Slow, Active Dragons, my mentorship as well. And if I was in a contract with Lord Sugar for my tennis events, I wouldn't be able to start up these side businesses. So actually for me, not winning was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because I got the positive PR from it, but it also allowed me to start up new ventures.
What challenges have you faced most in life? And when you are faced with challenges, how do you choose to approach them?
Challenges, probably, I think they were definitely my own limiting beliefs. The fact that I thought, that I was too young to be doing something, or I was a female trying to make it in a tennis world. And, there's only about 5% of females in the tennis world. It's very male dominated. So I was constantly thinking about these limiting beliefs, and that just delayed me trying to do the things that I wanted to do. I wanted to start this mentorship up like 2 years ago, and I'm just getting around to it now. And I feel like if I had, to anyone listening who has got these limiting beliefs, you've got to be able to identify what they are so that you can stop them and you can track them down. So I probably was the biggest hindrance to myself from starting.
I think that's so often the case in anything, actually, whether it be business or just generally in life. I think it's an interesting thing that so often I think people will apply themselves in one way. So they might be really great at work and they do everything they need to do and they're climbing the ladder, but for whatever reason they don't apply those same principles to another aspect of their life, as if it's completely different. But generally, approaches to most things we do are exactly the same. It's just depending whether we believe we can do it and see that it's the exact same process.
No, 100%. That's completely correct. It's all about our perception, whether it's in our personal relationship and love life, or if it's in our career, wherever we perceive the reality to be, because our reality is going to be different compared to somebody else's, but it's the way that we see that and the way that we react to that is what's going to actually give us results.
Yeah. So do you want to be the next, or rather the next, because that suggests you're going to be the same as, do you want to be as big as Tony Robbins, but the female version?
I mean, it's a big ambition to say that I want to be as big as Tony Robbins. Maybe, who knows? But physically, he's about 7 foot, right?
That bit may be a struggle.
But no, he's definitely a massive inspiration. And I feel like no matter where or how big I am, if I can impact people's lives for a positive change, then I'll be really happy.
Good answer. There's no dream too big. Otherwise, it's just self-imposed limitations.
I love it.
So obviously you have always been fit and healthy. Do you find it easy to keep the balance when you're working on business? Because I can certainly appreciate the fact that when you are throwing yourself into something, it can be very difficult to keep the balance. And actually, I guess in some ways having social events off the calendar probably helps you maintain that balance. But when things are kind of normal and you're throwing yourself in, are there any kind of things that you make sure you make time for your own well-being?
100%, and definitely more recently. Actually, since lockdown, I have been so much more healthier. I went into lockdown about a week and a half earlier than everyone else because I felt like I had symptoms. And I was just like, you know what, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to use this as an opportunity to change. And let's take me back 12 months. I was drinking 5-6 times a week. I was going out with my friends on like a big drinking session once a week, and it was just normal because that's the PR world. So when you go to launches, everyone, there's an open bar, so it's a great excuse. I was dating a lot, so I was going on many dinners out, and my weight was a little bit tricky to manage because of the alcohol and the food, but then also I wasn't keeping up with my fitness as much because I just had an injury. And for anyone else who's recovering from an injury, I was training like 3 times a day, like morning, lunchtime, evening. I was a proper gym bunny. And to go from, hours of intense training to nothing was mentally also very hard. So, now I'm in the position where I have such a strict routine, and that's made the biggest difference. And I think it's very, very hard actually when you are a business owner to be able to keep up your fitness and your nutrition. And for me, it's about having a routine and also being very tracking yourself and self-discipline. So every single meal I track on an app. In the morning, I have a very solid routine, which is get out of bed, obviously have my morning coffee, and go for a run, whether that's or like 10,000 steps. So I have that particular goal. I come back home, have my cold shower, I do an hour of self-development. That's all before the day's even started. And my morning routine, I wanted it to be this amazing thing. And in reality, that takes 2.5 hours. So I was like, okay, how am I going to get that 2.5 hours in my day? And I just started getting up earlier, and I started being more productive in the day because I was spending, a lot of time in the morning getting myself ready. So it is a balance, and it is hard. But for me, the biggest things are having discipline and tracking yourself as well.
Yeah, I think there's some really good points in there. And time is so often the problem, isn't it? Time is more often than not the reason people give for not being able to do something. And I think you can make time when you know something's worthwhile, because quite often, as all those things you were just listing off, because I'm very similar in my morning habits and routines, and I know on the few days that I don't do it because I take an easy day, I feel more tired in a way. Like it wakes me up, it gets me going, it makes my mind more alert, it makes me feel better. And I am 99% sure that I am always more efficient in the day after than I would if I'd done nothing or just done a couple of things in the morning. And you just find yourself more sluggish,
true.
don't you?
No, 100%. Like this weekend, I was like, you know what? I've done great this week. I'm going to have a weekend off. I felt rubbish. I felt awful. And even today, I needed a lie, and I was so tired. And I got up at 8 o'clock, and I still did my 2.5 hour routine. So I didn't start my work day till 11:30, but it was fine because I felt like I felt normalized. But if I hadn't have done that, I would have felt sluggish, like you said, for the whole day.
Yeah. Sluggish and distracted. It's like that thing. It's like an itch, isn't it? Like, there's something you haven't done and you don't feel quite right. So yeah, I think that's a really good tip for everyone, actually, just to think about whether their morning routine is working for them. And I know a lot of people say they're not necessarily morning people. I always admit I do quite like mornings. It's kind of my most productive time of day. But if it's not, even if you just give yourself another half an hour and do a couple of really good things for self-care, it makes the day so much better, doesn't it?
Exactly. And you know what, if you have, like, I'm single, I have no kids, so for me to have 2.5 hours, it's easy, right? But if you are in a relationship or you have other commitments, you have kids, 2.5 hours is a lot of time. You probably won't have that amount of time. But have you got half an hour? Have you got 10 minutes? And if you haven't, find that 10 minutes or half an hour and just think, if you have that space away from everything, how much extra value you're going to add to your relationship or add to your kids. That's a big difference.
I completely agree. It's a conversation I have very often with people, and I think actually it's particularly mums, they really struggle to put themselves first because they're always so busy running around after everyone else. But you know what, you need to keep your own cup full to be able to actually help the people around you as much as you possibly can. If you're completely exhausted and burnt out, there's only so much you're going to be able to do, isn't there?
No, 100%. And I can only speak about this because I've coached thousands of kids, and I've met thousands of parents through my events company. And there is a massive difference between a parent who has the extra amount of time for themselves and creates it compared to somebody who's, very stressed out all the time, because you can tell the difference in the children, and there's a different level of stress that the child brings onto the court. And it's going to be the same for other situations. So if you are at home and you've got kids and you're listening and thinking, where am I going to get that time? You've got to do everything in your power to find that time, whatever it is. And it will make such a big difference in your day.
I think a lot of it comes down to communication, actually. I think communication not only with yourself, but with those around you. And I think if you were to sort of talk that through with those around you, they would soon see that actually, yeah, of course you need that time. I'm going to help you make that time. And I think it's open discussion and communication is so powerful. And I guess that is a big part of your life, because coaching is all about communication, really, isn't it?
Massively. Like tennis coaching, I would say, is one of the biggest reasons why I'm successful in business. And that's because I really understand why somebody's turning up for. So somebody could be having a tennis lesson for, to relax, to rewind. Someone might want to improve. Somebody might just want, I'm a life coach 50% of the time that I used to give lessons for. They just used to tell me what was going on in their marriage and with their kids and at work as a de-stress. So I feel, communication is the biggest reasons why any kind of relationship doesn't work. And sometimes it's hard to be honest with yourself and have that open conversation. But I know with my, for myself, once I've started having those open conversations and telling people how I really felt, even though it was hard, it did make a big difference.
Yeah, makes sense. And with personal development, are you continuing to look to study, or are you throwing yourself purely into your business at the moment?
I think personal development wise, I've got, I probably spend about half an hour to an hour a day on this. And that is very strict. Before I pick up my phone or do anything work wise, I'll spend this time. And I just feel like if I'm not continuously trying to develop and learn, then how am I ever going to improve? It just means that if I said that, oh, I'm amazing and I'm very good at all this self-development already, then actually I'm at a very plateau part of my life, because there's many things that I don't even know that I didn't know about. So until I open myself up and I start listening to others, and yes, I am 24 and I've done a lot, but I've got many years of friends with more experience than I do. So it's all about constantly trying to learn and to challenge yourself.
Have you got anything in particular that's sparking your interest at the moment? Are there certain areas that have drawn you in?
There are. So one big area, I'm reading a book called Thrive by Rob Kelly. I would 100% recommend this book. It is amazing. And at the moment, I'm thinking about how I'm able to let go of controlling things in my life. So for me, I wouldn't say I'm a control freak, but I love the idea of me being able to control everything that's going around me. And at first, when I started reading this book, I was like, you know what, if things aren't going around me, it's okay, I can adapt. And the more I got into it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is me. I like knowing what's going on and trying to control things. So actually having a less sense of control, in the sense of I'm more being flexible in the way that I think and I'm able to adapt to situations, is what I'm working on at the moment.
Sounds intriguing. It's one of those things, it's like a rabbit hole, isn't it? You go down, you start jumping down, and then it just keeps going and going and going, and then something else feeds in, and then you jump over to that one. I think that's why it's kind of fascinating how you can stop wanting to learn, because there's so much to know.
I think so. And I think that's actually one of the biggest pieces of advice I read about or I heard, I'm not too sure, is to stop strolling. So if I want to, for example, better myself at business, if I just type that into Google, I'm going to get millions and millions of results, and I'm not going to get anywhere. And I get emailed all the time of, come join this webinar about learning how to get an investor, or learning about crowdfunding, or learning about SEO. And when I first got into business, I started doing everything, and I'd get really excited about the prospect of learning many things. And now that my time's more valuable, I think, okay, what do I need to specifically do today? So for example, I'm starting up webinars once a month, which is really exciting. What do I need to know on how to launch a webinar successfully? That's what I'm going to research into. So rather than just generally trying to improve myself, I think of what exactly specifically do I need to learn about, and then focus my time there.
And how do you plan your day? Are you writing it out on a calendar kind of girl, or?
So I have a VA who schedules in. So for example, podcasts I keep to the evening, because I feel like my productive self is in the morning. So I make sure I do everything that I have to do in the morning. Medium kind of tasks like emails or arranging things or creating things, I leave to the afternoon. And when I'm slightly tired but would love a conversation and have kind of that post dinner hype that you want to have a friendly chat, that's when I do kind of podcasts and recording. So I kind of do it depending on my mood. But the other thing is, if I don't feel like doing it, I just won't do it. So if I don't feel like I want to do any emails today, then I just put them off till tomorrow. No one's going to die unless I reply to this email. So also being very careful in, as long as you do what you have to do, all of the little tasks, do them when you want. Otherwise you'll see it as a chore rather than having a bit of fun.
That's a really good tip, actually. And it's about, I guess, focusing your to-do list of the must-do list, and then the things that need to be done, but they aren't necessarily vital. Because I think what can often happen if you just put it all into one list is you'll end up going to the easy ones / the ones you quite like doing. You never quite get down to those ones that actually really do need to be done, and they're probably the most important, that will move you forward.
Exactly. I'm laughing because I used to be like that. I used to make my massive list and I used to tick all of the easy ones off, or the ones that could be done but weren't actually moving me forward, because it made me feel like I'd achieved something. And at the end of the day, I was like, and all of those tasks that I've just done have done nothing towards my end revenue. Like there's been no progress there. So definitely, you know, finding those tasks that are going to move you forward quickly is so much more important than trying to make everything perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And what inspires you in life and in business?
This is really interesting. So until recently, because my inspiration has changed. So I used to be so scared at failing, and the fear of failure and not being able to achieve to a certain extent was my drive and my motivation. And I thought, okay, I want to achieve all of this by 30. I'm going to have to work so hard to get there. And recently, my whole perception of this has changed, because being driven by fear is such a negative thing to be driven by, you know? And I feel like the fact that if I was driven by fear, then I'm never actually going to be satisfied, because I'm going for a negative emotion. So my new inspiration is just making sure that I feel happy every single day. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but providing that I've lived the best possible day that I could have done the day before is a massive motivation and drive for me.
Yeah. And was there a pivotal moment that made you realize that was a negative thing and you just wanted to tilt it on its axis?
I don't know if there's a pivotal moment. I started doing at the beginning of isolation, actually, these live Zoom calls, and I had a live Instagram with Elena Cardone, and we started talking about, you know, relationships and how to create your best kind of relationship with your partner to move yourself forward. So I started looking into a little bit of her prior to speaking with her, and I was watching all these videos, and I just went through a really hard breakup with my ex-boyfriend. And one of the reasons why it probably didn't work is because I was relying too much on him about my happiness. And I was thinking, okay, I can't rely on somebody else to make me happy. I have to be happy without him. He has to be an extra. And I just kind of deep dived into that. And that's when I thought, I have to be so happy by the end of the day about what I'm achieving personally, that no matter that anybody else in my life can affect that. And that's when I had, I think, that pivotal moment.
Yeah, that is powerful, isn't it? And I get the impression you are quite an independent person, but do you have a team behind you that give you that support network?
Yeah, I would not be where I am without my team. I work very closely with the LTA, who are the Governing Board of Tennis, and, you know, they've massively helped me expand. Probably going back, you know, a year ago, I had a team of 5, and with their help, they've helped me recruit a team of 42.
Wow.
So that's been massive. I have my second right hand man, Ijaz, who basically runs my tennis company for me, and also Ben, who does a lot of the admin. So without key members in my support group, you know, there's no way I could get done what I do get done.
Have you still got some big goals for your tennis company?
I think so. I mean, we're the largest tennis events company in the UK. So firstly, I have to maintain that because I can't let that go. But I'm really excited to start Match Made in Tennis because, hey, maybe even I'll find a good looking guy playing tennis. Who knows?
It does sound like a really fun way of getting people together and meet doing something physical. At least, you know, you've got one thing in common.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't drink anymore. So, you know, the idea of going speed dating or something isn't that great, because everyone seems to get drunk, and, you know, anyone who's super into their fitness, you know, only occasionally drinks. So I thought, what is a great way to meet somebody who's into fitness? They don't have to play tennis, but they can enjoy a sport, and it's a fun way to get to know other people who enjoy sports too.
Yeah. Do you think it's one of those things that you could potentially roll out to other sports as well? Like it could just be different events, but essentially.
Match made in sports. No, I love it. Yeah, you can definitely do it to sports. You know, I used to play football every single day with the boys at school. And I've decided as soon as I can go outside and socialise, I will find a local five-a-side team. But that's not something that I would do because I'm working from my laptop usually. So I wouldn't look to, you know, I haven't got that workplace of five-a-side. So I definitely think it's a good way to meet somebody, especially now as well, that everyone who's been single probably is quite open to meeting someone new after isolating for 2 months.
Absolutely. If they get a chance to meet more than one person, all the better.
Exactly.
Was it a health decision that made you stop drinking, or have you just felt better since not drinking as much?
I think it was a mixture of both. I always used to feel like really groggy after I drank, and I feel like I was being quite like not productive. So that mixed with a couple of personal medical issues, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna just not drink. And I started probably last summer doing this slightly less and had, you know, tonic waters and instead of gin and tonic, and I started doing it a little bit, and I had a massive night out in February with the girls. Oh my goodness, it was awful. And I drank a lot for the first time in about 6 months, and I was probably out of it for about 3 or 4 days. So after that, I just made the decision to stop drinking. And if I'm at celebrations or parties, you know, I have a glass of wine. So I'm not going to be uber strict to myself, but I really love not drinking. I feel so much clearer in the head.
It's really interesting, actually. A few episodes ago on the podcast, I chatted to she's actually an old school friend, and she's been sober for just over a year now. And it's just so interesting a subject to talk about, because I really don't think people think about how they feel the day after they drink, or even potentially the night. I mean, you know, there's plenty of stories on the night as well.
Mine was definitely on the night story as well. You know, I always thought that my parents don't drink, and I always thought that they weren't very cool. So obviously, being a bit of a rebel, I started drinking not late, but when I was 16, and I thought it was a really cool thing to do, and I would do it as a norm. And I just thought, why am I drinking so much, and why can't I just see my friends and have a normal drink with them rather than having alcohol to start a conversation? And why do I feel so insecure with myself that when I go to house parties that I need a drink before I can start talking to other human beings? There was just something not right there. So I thought I'd challenge myself.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Absolutely challenge yourself. I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. And I think it's like flipping a switch, because if you can't talk or have a nice time with a group of people that you're in a room with, you're probably in the wrong room, because you shouldn't need a drink to do it. Like, a drink might add to it, but it shouldn't be the requirement. Otherwise, it's going to be a really bad night. But I think it takes time to challenge such a big social norm.
Exactly. And if I think about why I drink, it was because I needed a bit more confidence, or I needed a bit of an uplift, or I was just having a bad day. So I'd have a drink to make me feel better because it would distract myself. And they're all really negative reasons of drinking. And the fact that it's normal to have a drink when you see a friend means that something there doesn't make it feel normal to see them without having alcohol in your system. And I think it's a fundamental flaw that we've overlooked in society, and we're definitely worse in the UK than we are in comparison to other countries too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's really interesting. And what do you do for fun? What do you do to unwind?
So I'm definitely a bit of a workaholic. And I used to think I was such an extrovert, and now I'm loving this space on my own. But still, picnics with friends, you know, movie night, game nights, board game nights, everything normal apart from having the alcohol there. And I sometimes have previously found it really hard, especially when you go to bars and everyone's drinking, and I just feel like, oh, like maybe I should have a bit of a drink, and you don't feel like you fit in as much. But actually, I've started other sports. I started salsa dancing as well, which was massive. Yeah, and it's like a night where you get to see all your friends, you get to have fitness, and it's not a drinking culture.
Have you ever done
It's really
dancing
exciting
before?
I used to go to Italia Conti, so I used to have like some kind of dancing lessons, but salsa was completely new to me, but I loved it straight away.
Oh, awesome. You've got loads of things to keep you busy when we come out of lockdown.
Hopefully.
So, just to bring it to an end, is there one thing that you think everyone would benefit from knowing? And what would that be?
I think the one thing, well, that's a great question. My piece of advice is to tackle your own limiting beliefs first, in the sense of you are the biggest aspect of your life that's stopping you get to the next level. There's nobody telling you that, there's no magic fairy that's going to give you more confidence or is going to make you start doing more fitness or eat healthier. It's completely your decision to whether you do or don't do things in life. Your choice is completely your decision, right? No one can take that away from you. So you've got to think, if you're not getting to a certain level that you want to be getting to, then what exactly is your belief in your belief system is stopping you get to that level? And as soon as you can identify, which is really hard sometimes, to be honest with yourself, but as soon as you can identify what beliefs you have in place that's stopping you get to that level, and most of them come around self-assurance or self-esteem, can you tackle and can you change those belief systems in order to make your life positive? I think that's the biggest thing for sure.
Thank you. I think that's great. And if the audience would like to get in touch with you, whereabouts are you on the internet? I can pop them all into the show notes.
Of course. So my probably biggest platform is Instagram, which is sabrinastocker.r. Or if you're looking to join a startup community, which also kind of dives into mindset as well, you can at sabrinastocker.com/mentorship. And my Twitter is sabs_stocker.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been wonderful. And I am sure everyone's going to love this episode. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Your energy is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for listening to episode 13 of the LiveFitNow podcast. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Don't forget, you can pop over to the show notes to get either in touch with Sabrina or all of our social media links are on there also, so you can get in touch. I would love to hear from you. Any review or feedback would be very much welcomed. And if you have any subject areas that you would like covered in future episodes, please get in touch because we have lots in the pipeline, but I would love to hear from you too. Thanks again. Please share with your family and friends and on social media. Until the next time.